Hello, my name is Joanna Wolszak-Derlacz from Gdansk University of Technology, and I have a question to the first two presenters. You both use EU claims, as far as I understand. The question to Jan Witajewski, which sectors have you used? Was it a sector total sector? Because I couldn't get it. And what do you think? Because I was working with this data, and I have the feeling that you have the ratio of high skill wage to low skill wage. I have the feeling that it's very persistent, and maybe this is due to the aggregation of the data, probably. That's why. And the second question to you also, considering, because you said that you have done some robustness considering the endogeneity, yes, and because the title of your presentation is Endogenous Technological Choice, just could you tell us a bit more about this endogeneity issue? And to Olaf van Vliet, yes, sorry. Again, the question about the sectors, yes, because you have used a couple of sectors, 18, or was it? I don't remember, but they were manufacturing, only manufacturing, or did you also take into account service sectors? Because I think that it can be also interested in case of the China trade to other countries. Thank you.
Thanks, Mario Holzner, Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies. Alexandra, I would like to suggest, maybe if I understood correctly, you used the fixed effects model. But I think it would be more appropriate to use a mixed model that specifically accounts for micro and macro levels. So that I think would be rather a correct way. And Olaf, I'm not sure that I understood that correctly. These are gross trade flows that you used? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe using, like Aleksandra, the Vliet value-added trade data could be maybe also, I guess, probably, my guess would be it would improve the fit of your model because it gets all these indirect trade effects.
Also a bit more of a comment to Jan's paper. I was wondering with that random walk assumption on the supply side, how I should think about this. And I guess a variation that a firm observes is twofold. It's the entry of where people decide what education to take, whether they should invest in education or not. But it's also participation of older workers, whether they retain in the labor market or they take time off when they have children or something like this. And there, I think the random walk nature might be much more appropriate because that's harder to forecast for the firm. Whereas for the young guys entering, we know there's been secular increases in participation. So I don't know whether that constant drift in the random walk does that justice. So if you had another data set, perhaps you could do a similar analysis where you just restrict the sample to prime age men and see whether the results are robust.
May I have one question? Or two, actually. I have one to Olaf and one to Aleksandra. Because I was actually wondering, because the setup you use, you can actually, I think, replace Chinese exports or imports that were, for the matter, with any other, because there is like no theoretical model saying that Chinese is very different. We have anecdotal evidence and we have intuition, but have you tried to do like a placebo test and put there, I don't know, Mexican exports and check if all the results hold? Because there is a risk that it's just spurious for some reason about the exports in general. And I have the question to Aleksandra, which wages actually in the list data set at the individual level you are using? Because if I remember correctly, you don't get directly hourly day wages there. And for some countries, I think yearly are available only, so that the yearly income from work. So how did you solve that issue? leave it up to you who want to start. So I'm not gonna, manage everything.
Okay. So we start from left to right, from your perspective. Okay. So the EU claims data. So there are three categories, right? Low, middle, and high-skilled workers. I combined the first two into one. So it's kind of non-college graduates versus college graduates. And obviously I did some adjustments in the supply. I mean, no, it's not that no, in the sense, like, I didn't treat that they are just the same people. I controlled for the, I assumed that the middle skills provide more supply than the low skill. Based on the relative wages, and then I don't want to go into this detail, but indeed, then the college wage premium under this setup is the relative wage of high-skilled workers versus low-skilled workers, and they are not that persistent. I think they vary quite much on the aggregate level between countries. Like these dynamics are different, and to answer your other question about what is the level of aggregations, I use only the country level aggregation, the kind of total. I don't look at the sectors. So many people ask me why I don't use the sectors. So the reason is that it's not that I'm lazy. It's just that I am concerned about endogeneity, econometric endogeneity in this sense. Because I probably, at the aggregate level, the relative supply of skilled workers, we can believe it's more or less inelastic. While at the sectoral level, I guess there is shift between sectors of people, and because of this, the endogeneity issue becomes stronger. So this is the reason. About endogeneity, yes. So there are two endogeneity concepts. Maybe I'm mixing it in the presentation. There is endogeneity due to endogeneity in the theoretical sense that I explain. It's not just exogenous choices of firms, but they are driven by labor market conditions. And different concepts is endogeneity in terms of econometrics. And I don't want to go into detail, but in the paper I try to derive what is the bias due to endogeneity, and I actually show if anything, it decreases the effect, the bias is downward towards zero. Then there was Christian's question about random walk with drift. Yes, I don't like this assumption. And I thought about changing it, and probably I will have to do it and put it in the appendix. And the random walk with drift probably doesn't reflect well the true dynamics. I put it because it's simple. And probably for this reason I should do it also like in a more appropriate model and put it in the appendix. I just don't want to mess too much in the paper. Because I don't think it will change the result. It will complicate the picture, but it will not change the qualitative result. But anyway, I didn't do it yet, so I have to do it, and then I will be able to tell you. I have done it and put it in the appendix. Okay, thank you.
I actually have a slide with the sectors, so I can show you. There it is. So indeed, it is only manufacturing sectors. We also looked at the services sectors, but there the magnitude is really small, so it's not that interesting. The second question, gross, indeed, not value-added approach. That would be very interesting. So we had also the idea of doing something with that in the future, perhaps. More generally, you could argue that for China it might not be that relevant. So it is more, the intermediate goods, for instance, are more relevant, for instance, within for the exports within the EU, within the OECD countries. Of course, it's also relevant for other countries, but not to the same extent, I would say. Final question, whether we also have tried other countries instead of China. Yes, we did. in the number of sensitivity analysis, we put instead of China, we did it for India, for Malaysia, for Mexico, the Philippines, and for Thailand. For none of these countries, we didn't find anything. So yeah.
Okay. Yes, concerning this remark, of course, as I've said, these are very, very preliminary results. Of course, we have to take into account these 2 dimensions, actually 3 dimensions, because we have panel of data for several countries, sectors, and microdata. So we have to work on that. The variables. So there is direct information on gross hourly wage. This is gross 1 variable. And this is for 10 countries in least data in this wave. Because in the end we have also other measure for 16 countries. So for the remaining 6, it is possible to construct a more crude, let's say, proxy of gross hourly wage based, as you've said, on the information on annual earnings and divided by hours worked in. Of course, it has several drawbacks because sometimes we do not know whether the person has only 1 job or 2 jobs and so on and so on. So this, the estimation results using gross 1 variable are the benchmark values. But in these tables, for instance, we are surprised that they actually are very consistent across these different measures of wages. Okay.